Dionne Warwick entered the studio with the kind of presence that could hush a room without a word. Even the production crew, used to A-listers and dramatic personalities, found themselves quietly watching her glide toward her seat. At 84, she exuded a mix of grace and steel, a living legend who had seen and done it all, from topping charts in the golden age of soul to mentoring generations of artists who worshipped her sound. The applause that greeted her was thunderous, and Dionne gave a poised smile as she took her seat opposite Andy Cohen on his late-night talk show. She had been invited to discuss her upcoming album, a long-anticipated project blending classic soul with modern collaborations, but Andy, known for his sharp tongue and playful provocation, had other plans. The cameras rolled, the lights dimmed to the perfect hue, and after a round of warm introductions, the conversation began innocently enough. They laughed over her decades-long career, the people she'd performed with, and the stories behind her biggest hits. For a moment, everything felt smooth, nostalgic, and easy. But Andy Cohen had a reputation to uphold. His audience expected heat, tension, viral moments, awkward confessions. He thrived on what he called candor, but what most celebrities experienced is controlled chaos. The first shift came when he leaned forward, eyes gleaming with that signature smirk. "So, Dionne," he began, his voice taking on that playful edge that often preceded trouble, "you've been kind of a legend on Twitter the past few years. I mean, calling out Chance the Rapper, teasing The Weeknd, you've become quite the sass queen. What made you decide to start stirring the pot online?" The crowd laughed. Dionne didn't. She tilted her head slightly, her expression measured. "I don't stir pots," she said calmly. "I make statements. If I have something to say, I say it, directly. That's how grown-ups handle things." Andy chuckled, undeterred. Sure, he said, waving a hand. "But don't you think that's part of the fun? I mean, come on, the internet loves you for it. You've gone viral more for your tweets than your songs lately." A faint murmur rippled through the audience. Dionne's expression didn't change, but her eyes, sharp and focused, told another story. "Let me remind you," she said, leaning slightly closer, "that my songs have been loved by millions for over 60 years. Tweets are temporary. Music lasts." Andy smiled awkwardly. The audience clapped, sensing a power shift. But he wasn't ready to back down. "Of course," he said lightly, "you're a legend. No question about that, but some people say, and I'm just quoting here, that you enjoy being controversial. That you kind of like making people squirm." The studio grew still. Dionne crossed one leg over the other, her hands folded neatly in her lap. "Andy," she began slowly, "I've been in this business long enough to recognize when someone's fishing for drama. You won't get that from me today." The crowd chuckled nervously. Andy, feeling the awkwardness settle in, decided to double down. No, he said, holding his palms up, "I'm not fishing for drama, just honesty. It's what makes great TV, right? Honesty doesn't require disrespect," Dionne replied swiftly, her tone still elegant but edged with firmness. "There's a difference between asking about someone's art and trying to make them a spectacle." A few people in the audience clapped again, softly at first, then louder. Andy gave a tight smile. "Okay, fair point," he said, though his tone betrayed irritation. "But let's be real, people love watching you tell it like it is. I mean, that tweet about younger artists not knowing real music. That was savage." Dionne sighed quietly, then turned to face the audience before answering. "I don't consider honesty savage," she said. "If something's true, it doesn't become rude just because people don't want to hear it. We live in a time where respect for legacy is fading, and I simply remind people where the music came from." The audience erupted in applause this time, loud and genuine. Andy shifted in his seat, realizing he was losing control of the narrative. He tried to regain footing. Okay, he said with a chuckle that didn't reach his eyes. "But come on, Dionne, don't you ever think, maybe I should tone it down? Like, you don't have to clap back at everyone." "I don't clap back," she said sharply, her voice rising just a fraction. "I respond, and only when something deserves a response." There was a pause, long and uncomfortable. The silence in the room was electric. Andy tapped his cue cards, searching for a lighter topic, but it was too late. The balance had shifted. Dionne, elegant as ever, adjusted her microphone slightly and sat up straighter. "You invited me here," she said, "to talk about my new music, a project that celebrates unity, love, and growth. Yet you've spent most of this interview trying to box me into controversy. Why is that? Andy opened his mouth to answer, but she continued before he could. I've seen this happen before. You take strong women, women who've earned respect, and you try to make their confidence look like arrogance. It's lazy journalism, Andy. And quite frankly, beneath you. The words landed like thunder. The audience gasped. The sound engineer froze with his hand over the volume knob. Andy tried to laugh it off, but the humor died quickly in his throat. Dionne, I'm just asking questions, he stammered. No, she said, her voice soft but powerful. You're looking for a headline. You're trying to make me another viral moment instead of an artist. And I'm not here for that. And then, in one smooth motion, she began to remove her microphone. The crew rushed forward, unsure whether to intervene. Dionne, Andy said, his voice tight with unease, please, we're live. I'm aware, she said. And that's exactly why I'm leaving. I don't perform for disrespect. The sound of her mic dropping onto the chair echoed through the room. She stood, her posture regal, her face unreadable. You want a show, Andy? Here it is, she said as she turned toward the camera. Know when to walk away. With that, Dionne Warwick, the icon, the legend, the woman who refused to be reduced to a soundbite, walked off the set. The audience, stunned for a heartbeat, erupted into applause as she exited the stage. Andy sat motionless, forcing a thin smile that couldn't hide his embarrassment. The broadcast cut abruptly to a commercial. Backstage, Dionne's assistant followed her quietly as she exited the studio, her heels clicking confidently against the floor. You sure you don't want to wait for the car? The assistant asked softly. Dionne smiled faintly. He'll recover, she said. They always do. But he'll remember this one. And with that, she stepped into the cool evening air, calm, composed, and entirely in control, while inside, Andy Cohen's studio buzzed with confusion, shock, and the unmistakable awareness that they had just witnessed television history in motion. By the time the sun rose the next morning, the video clip of Dionne Warwick walking off Andy Cohen's show had already exploded across the internet. It started with one shaky recording, a fan in the studio audience who'd managed to capture the tense moment on their phone before the show abruptly cut to commercial. Within hours, that 30-second clip was everywhere. On Twitter, on Instagram Reels, on TikTok, even on news sites that rarely covered celebrity interviews. The headline varied depending on who was posting it, but they all carried the same energy. Dionne Warwick puts Andy Cohen in his place, then walks out. Fans couldn't stop talking. Thousands of comments poured in praising Dionne's composure and criticizing Andy's tone. That woman handled it like a queen, one fan wrote. Another said, she didn't raise her voice once, just pure grace and power. Within hours, hashtags like #Dionne handled it and #respect Ms. Warwick were trending worldwide. Even major celebrities joined the conversation. Patti LaBelle tweeted, Dionne's been telling the truth since the 60s, baby. Nothing new here, followed by a crown emoji. Chance the Rapper, who had once been playfully teased by Dionne on Twitter, posted a laughing gif of himself with the caption, Andy Dionne strikes again. The Weeknd retweeted a clip of the walk-off, adding, icon behavior. Meanwhile, Andy Cohen's team was scrambling. The episode's production crew, caught completely off guard, had tried to edit the situation for broadcast, but the damage was already irreparable. Public reaction was swift and unforgiving. Viewers accused Andy of being disrespectful, calling the interview condescending, embarrassing, and a masterclass in missing the point. His official social media accounts were flooded with criticism. By midday, Andy broke his silence. He posted a carefully worded statement on X, formerly Twitter, I have nothing but love and respect for Dionne Warwick. Things got a little heated, and I regret if my questions came off the wrong way. She's a legend, and I hope we can sit down again sometime soon. The apology didn't land the way he hoped. Replies poured in questioning its sincerity. If you respected her, you wouldn't have talked down to her, one user replied. Another said, you wanted drama and got schooled. Own it. While Andy faced the firestorm, Dionne handled the situation with her trademark calm. Around noon, she posted a single tweet that instantly went viral. When someone doesn't respect your time or your purpose, walk away, gracefully. That one line captured everything. It was simple, elegant, and cutting. The tweet garnered over 3 million likes within 24 hours. The replies were flooded with fans thanking her for showing how to set boundaries with class. Later that day, Dionne made a brief appearance on Good Morning America via video call. The host, Robin Roberts, greeted her warmly and asked, "Ms. Warwick, people are calling what happened yesterday a masterclass in self-respect. How are you feeling about it all?" Dionne smiled, unbothered and radiant. "Oh, I feel just fine, thank you," she said. "I didn't plan anything dramatic. I just decided I didn't need to be in a space where I wasn't being respected. That's all." Robin nodded, visibly impressed. "You handled it with a lot of grace. I think people are inspired by how you kept your composure." "Well," Dionne replied with a small laugh, "when you've been in this business as long as I have, you learn to recognize when something isn't worth your energy. And I have a lot of good energy left, I'd rather spend it on my music." That short clip became another viral moment. Fans and fellow artists praised her authenticity. Rolling Stone published an article titled, "Dionne Warwick Shows the World How Legends Handle Disrespect." The Washington Post ran a think piece about ageism and sexism in media, using the Cohen interview as a prime example of how older women in entertainment were often treated with condescension instead of reverence. By Friday, streams of Dionne's latest single, Still Standing Strong, tripled overnight. The music video, which had debuted quietly just a week before, suddenly found itself at the top of YouTube's trending page. Comments flooded the video with renewed admiration. "This song hits different after what she said on Andy Cohen," wrote one user. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Andy Cohen's network was in damage control mode. Producers of his talk show reportedly held emergency meetings about how to rebuild public trust. A leaked memo revealed discussions about booking more positive and legacy-centered interviews in the coming months. The show's social media team even disabled comments temporarily due to the flood of backlash. In the midst of all this, Dionne remained composed. She declined several invitations to discuss the drama on other talk shows. Instead, she focused on her music tour rehearsals, a string of sold-out performances scheduled across the U.S. Her publicist issued a brief statement saying, "Ms. Warwick appreciates the love and support. Her focus remains on sharing her music and message of resilience." But the story wouldn't die down. Over the weekend, videos analyzing the interview racked up millions of views on YouTube and TikTok. Media critics dissected the exchange frame by frame, noting Andy's dismissive tone, Dionne's calm body language, and the precise moment the tension broke. One popular video essay titled, "The Art of Walking Away: How Dionne Warwick Mastered Public Dignity," gained over 5 million views in 2 days. By Monday, the cultural tide had shifted completely in Dionne's favor. She became a symbol, not just of artistic excellence, but of grace under fire. Younger generations who barely knew her music now quoted her tweet as life advice. Memes featuring her image and the words, "Walk away gracefully," began circulating online, transforming a tense TV moment into a viral mantra of empowerment. Even Andy Cohen, after several days of silence, seemed to accept defeat. On his SiriusXM radio show, he addressed the situation in a more candid tone. "I'll be honest," he admitted, "I pushed too far. Dionne Warwick deserves more respect than I showed. I was trying to be playful, but it came off the wrong way. She taught me something. Sometimes, the best interviews come from listening, not pushing." That admission softened public perception slightly, but the incident remained a permanent mark on his career, a cautionary tale about underestimating a legend. Dionne, on the other hand, thrived. 2 weeks later, she appeared on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. When Jimmy joked, "You caused quite a stir lately, Ms. Warwick," she chuckled and replied, "Well, darling, I didn't cause it, I simply refused to participate in it." The audience roared with laughter and applause. Her album, Timeless Grace, debuted in the Billboard Top 10, her highest charting release in decades. Critics praised both the music and the message behind it. In interviews, Dionne credited her resurgence to knowing when to speak and when to walk. Months later, when asked again about the Andy Cohen incident, she smiled and said, "Oh, that was just another day at work. Sometimes, you just have to remind people who you are." And she had. In the end, Dionne Warwick didn't just walk off a show, she walked into a renewed legacy. Her quiet strength became a rallying cry, her grace a lesson in self-worth. What could have been a fleeting controversy became a timeless moment of dignity in an era obsessed with drama. And somewhere, as another clip of her walk-off replayed for the millionth time, a new fan discovered her voice, not her tweets, not her headlines, but her music. Exactly the way she wanted it.